So how did you get involved with Super PAC, Gumbo PAC?
Yeah, last year in 2014, Michael and I did a lot of work for the Senate Majority PAC, Harry Reid's PAC, and we worked in U.S. Senate races throughout the country in 2014. And we've worked with these national Super PACs quite a bit over the years. I still do some lobbying for the trial bar here in Louisiana and have a relationship with them. And back in February, Vitter gave a speech to the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association over in Lake Charles, where he basically said, my #1 priority when I'm elected governor is to institute Texas and Oklahoma style tort reform in the state of Louisiana. And so there are a lot of folks on our side of the equation that were pretty worried about that, just for the rights of average citizens and access to the civil justice system. And so they were looking for something to do. Most all of the guys from that group were supporting John Bel Edwards. None of them were supporting David Vitter, obviously, just because he had a long track record of being anti-consumer and against the plaintiff's bar. And so I, in meetings with him, suggested, hey, why don't you let me put this PAC together? And really, we didn't know what we were, you never really know how these things are going to end when you set them up. And so I had 3 goals. One was to create a structure, legally, campaign finance, build a team of consultants, to build a structure so that if at some point the race shifted so that we were going to be funded, we would be ready to go, because it just takes a while to get these things. You just don't say, oh, I'm gonna have a Super PAC tomorrow, and all of a sudden you're on TV. So that takes a while. And the second thing, as I mentioned, was just to try and chip away at this aura of inevitability that Vitter had. And the third was to resurrect the prostitution scandal. I would like to say that I was had the foresight back in March and April to say, oh, well, in October, the Democratic Governors Association is going to get involved in the race. And not only are they going to buy into the race here in Louisiana, but they're going to basically buy in through Gumbo PAC to the tune of $2.25 million. I wish I could say I was smart enough back then to plan for that, but I really wasn't. But it worked out that way.
Right. That was really very surprising. Obviously, the polls indicated at that time, excuse me, in the spring, John Bell didn't, I don't think he even really registered it at all, not until maybe June, July. And certainly October, then it looked like he could possibly take it all. In terms of creating the Super PAC, you mentioned about the legal structure, and how long did that take? Because obviously a lot of people, including myself, are pretty ignorant as it relates to Super PACs and what's involved.
The first thing I did was I hired a law firm out of Washington, D.C., Sandler, Reef, Lamb, and something else. Some guys that I'd known. I served as director of the state Democratic Party from 1997 to 2001, and Neil Reef was an attorney at the DNC back when I was direct. So I knew these guys for a long time, and they specialize in election law. So I hired them to basically make sure that we complied with all the legalities of the PAC, but also to handle all the campaign finance reporting and that kind of stuff. And it took, it took a few weeks to get going and get the paperwork. And really, we had to decide. There's a Super PAC, which I started. Gumbo PAC is a Super PAC. That means that I can accept and expend unlimited amounts of money from any source. But I just have to report every dollar in and every dollar out. So my campaign finance reports are filed on the same schedule as the gubernatorial candidate. So everybody, when we file this next report in a week or two, they'll be able to see all the money, where it came from, and they'll be able to see exactly how we spent it. It's all very transparent. There's 2 other types of Super PACs, if you will. There's a C4, and then there's a 527. Both of those are federal designations. Those also can accept unlimited sources of money, but they have more restrictions on exactly how they can spend it. on what purposes they can spend it, but they don't have to report their source of their contributions. So a 527, for instance, if you remember when John Kerry was running for president, the Swift boat ads, those were done by 527 against John Kerry. We did have a 527, but we really didn't use it. I chose not to do the C4 or the 527 because of the restrictions on the way they allowed you to use your money. And so it was a bit of a risk because at first, for a while, it was really hard for us to raise money because people were worried about David Vitter taking political retribution against him, because even in the off chance that we would have been successful and David Vitter was not elected governor, everybody's saying, well, shucks, he's still going to be a United States senator. And I don't want my name to show up on these campaign finance reports because Vitter's going to have it in for me forever. But as it turned out, it worked. It worked.